In our last Mish-Mash video, I told you I bought this little Stihl MS-170 16-inch chainsaw. I'll tell you what, I've been giving this baby a workout ever since that video. And so far, I've managed to clean up this entire area here. The tree limbs that came off up here that were messing around with my G5 RV antenna routing. I haven't got the antenna back up yet. I want to clean out everything first. And we still have this tree to go here. And these over here. I've got these all the branches are cut off down to the trunks of these trees. So right now I'm going to haul them away. And then the next target will be this great big one right here. Well, so far what we have here is the little saw that could and the little saw that did. Boy, I'll tell you what, it did a lot of chopping, a lot of cutting. And there she sits over there, ready for that last log that's sitting on there. That's a big sucker. I'm getting kind of tired. I need to go in and get me a cup of coffee. Well, look at there. I come back out from having my coffee, and look what that little saw did all by itself while I was gone. It cut this log all into little pieces. Oh, you're a good little Stihl saw. Good boy. Well, that's it. Finally, at last, I got the hardwood part of this job done. Now for the cleanup. Oh, God, what a mess. Here's a couple of other pine trees I had cut down. I had topped out is what I had done. They were swaying a lot in the wind, and there's some power wires right here, as you can see. If you know, in the wintertime coming, if the snow and ice on that tree would have toppled these things over, because the roots aren't all that deep on a pine, like I said, especially where these two are located, they would have taken out the power lines, and everybody up the road would have been out of electricity. I'd have felt pretty bad about that. So this is our next job, getting all these branches cleaned up, which shouldn't be too bad. Now here's something I told you quite a while ago that you would be seeing again. Evapo-Rust. Wifey bought it for me quite a while back, maybe a year, maybe. I don't know. And I'm just now getting around to using it. I hadn't planned on using it except on this particular radio I'm working on now anyway. So, you know, it was one of those things I just get to when I get to. Keeps me busy, you know, just thinking about what I have to do. Anyway, for those of you who've never heard of Evapo-Rust, I think is it WD-40, I guess? I think I'm a Junk Collector also put out a video that showed, I think it was WD-40 stuff that's equivalent to this Evapo-Rust. But this is expensive, you know, it runs $20-some a gallon. But it's reusable. You can put it back in the jar and use it over and over and over and over until it's finally so saturated with rusty crap, you know, which could be quite a while. It's so bad that you can't use it anymore, then you have to go out and buy some, but it really will save a lot of effort. This stuff is, read that label, there's water soluble, pH neutral. Oh, I like the fact it says no acids, fumes, safe on the skin and eyes. You can pour it down the sink when you're done, believe it or not. It's non-toxic. Really, it says right there, super safe rust removal. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the top off and peel this seal off, and then we're going to cover up this piece of metal and get some of that rust off there, because I have plans for that metal once the rust is gone. We'll go ahead and pour this in here. I'm just going to cover it up, and remember, we can pour it back in the jar when we're done. It's that good. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in, cover the whole thing up just like that. Well, I know wifey's not going to want this stuff sitting around her kitchen. So I'll just take it out here in the carport and set it on the old table in the corner. Well, it's the next morning. Let's take a look and see. It's soaked about 10 hours. Not about 9 hours. Let's see what we got here. Well, that's not too bad. It's beginning to come off. The the liquid's beginning to change. We'll just go ahead and I'll leave it in there until I get back from work tonight, and we'll see what happens. Just stick it on in there. The old Hammerlin HQ129X has 11 tubes, as I've told you earlier in other videos, and it's generating a ton of heat inside this cabinet. And I think it's the heat that wiped out 5 of my tubes. And the biggest culprit as far as heat goes is this 5U4 rectifier. And that thing puts out anywhere from 18 to 20 watts of heat. So what we're going to do is I'm going to remove that 5U4 rectifier. I'm going to take a tube base that I have. I'm going to put a couple of diodes in it, and we're going to replace that tube with some solid state diodes. I'll show you how that's done. Well, the first thing we have to do is find out how much current this radio is pulling, which means I'll have to set it up on my variac. Now I have 123.2 volts AC coming through my wall sockets. So I will have to set up the variac to 123.2 volts AC and then go ahead and turn this radio on and find out what the current is, what the current draw is. So let's take a look at that. Well, as you can see, we're pulling almost, well, we're pulling a little over 700 milliamps, 0.7 amps. We're on the top scale, 1 amp scale. So using a couple of diodes rated at 1 amp, it will put it a little bit close. So I'm going to have to go with a diode that's capable of handling the voltage and a higher current rating, just to be on the safe side. A couple of 1N4007s would work fine. But I'd have to always be worried about it, and I don't want that to happen. If a slight short, or if a tube begins to pull a little more current as it deteriorates or something, I don't know, it would really be pushing the line. So let's get something a little heftier in there. I decided to go with the 1N5406. Now the 5406 is rated at 600 volts and 3 amps. Now this is reverse voltage and at 3 amps. So that was a good choice, especially since I could get 10 of them on eBay for 99 cents. And that included shipping. So that's what I did. Alright, let's go ahead and pull this rectifier tube. And as you can see, the tube socket in the bottom is very similar to this. Now this one does not have a full set of pins because it doesn't need a full set of pins. But I'm going to be replacing that entire tube with just this socket here, which does have a full set of pins. They won't be used, of course. But we're going to go ahead and put our diodes inside there. Solder them the right way. I'll show you how to do all that, and then we're just going to plug it in down there like that. Then we're going to go ahead and turn it on and make sure the radio works and find out what the current draw is then. Let's go ahead and get the diodes in. Just so everybody knows what we'll be doing here, I'm going to replace the 5U4 tube with a couple of diodes, and we're going to connect the diodes here and here, and then we're going to connect them up to here. I've blown this up here and removed some of the stuff. Let me show you the first drawing here. Okay, the first drawing is just what you just saw, only it's a lot larger. We're going to go ahead now. All of these wires will continue to be soldered to the pins underneath the tube socket, underneath the chassis. And but we're going to go ahead and do the connections on the top in that little black tube socket that I showed you, just as if the tube were plugged in. Okay, so essentially what we're going to be doing is removing. Let me get a little felt tip pen here. Maybe I can. I don't even know where. Oh, here it is. I'm always prepared, as you can see. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take. Let me see. This section right here in green is coming out. Okay, all of that's coming out. And for just to make things a little simpler, even though this winding right here, which feeds the filament on the rectifier tube, we're going to go ahead and show that as being not there, even though it's still going to be soldered, from the transformer secondary out to the tube pins on the bottom. Now what we have is tube pins number 2, 4, 6, and 8. That's all we have here on that tube. Now let's go ahead and let me show you what I've done here. There we go. I removed that winding from the drawing, even though it's still there and still soldered, and then I removed the tube and everything. And what we're going to do is put two diodes in here with the anodes connected to the top and bottom of the secondary winding. The cathodes, as you can see, this one and this one, this is the negative side, these are the positive side. The two cathodes will be connected to pin 8, which was originally soldered to the choke right here. It'll be tube pin number 8 on the bottom of the tube socket. As you can see, here's pin 8, okay? Pin 8, if you come up here like this and come across, same line, same, still pin 8. Anywhere along here is pin 8. 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. Actually, it's pin 8 all the way up till you get over here to the top of this filament winding coil. It's still pin 8, okay? This, of course, would be pin 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, you know. Simple stuff, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Inside that tube socket, I'm going to go from pin 6 to pin 8, from pin 4 to pin 8. And then we're just going to plug it back in where the tube was. Here's the difference in size between the 1N4007s, which are rated at 1 amp and 1,000 volts. This is the 1N5406s that we'll be putting in the radio, and they're rated at 600 volts and 3 amps. 1 amp, 3 amps. Much different size, huh? Even the leads are real thick. And what we're going to be doing, as I've said, we're going to be putting them inside this socket right here. And we'll show you how that's done. We're going to get rid of these. Now these will work normally, no problem at all on a small radio, you know. But we need the big current handling capability just to be on the super safe side. Overkill, yes, but everyone knows who follows my videos, I like overkill. Well, there we have it, folks. These leads were too thick for both of them to fit down in one of these holes for number 8 where the two cathodes had to fit. So what I had to do was bend this one around and solder it to this lead, and then just put one lead down through the hole and solder it in place. So we've got 4, 6, 8, both anodes on 4, one on 4, one on 6. The cathodes, the ends with the stripes, soldered to pin 8. And then this is what they look like on the other side. Looking at the right here, let's get this thing squared away where we can see it. Okay, there's the key. There's the key. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Pin 4 has an anode. 5, 6 has an anode. 7 and 8 has both of those cathodes. So all we have to do now is plug her in. Alright, here we go. Let's go ahead and remove our rectifier tube. Take our little socket here with the diodes in. Let's get that thing plugged in. Just like that. That's all there is to it. Just plug it in and leave it just like that. Here we go. Alright, let's see if we get any noise out of this thing. If we get some noise out of it, we're good to go. Now the tubes are lighting up. All the tubes here, the glass ones are lighting up. Bulbs are right about the right brightness. Let's see what happens. Turn up the volume here a little bit. WSM Nashville, 6:50 a.m. Oh, how about that? Alright, we dropped about, let me see what my voltage is. The voltage has dropped way down. Let's back up here a little bit. Let's take the voltage up to 123.2 again. There we go. Alright, let's see what our current draw is now. Well, it's a little less than 7. Well, it's about Looks like about 6.7, about 675 milliamps. Looks like we've lost about 50 milliamps of current draw, which is good. Okay, not bad. I'll accept that. Well, looks like it was a success, folks. Alright, that'll save a little heat inside that thing. At least you know now how to do it if you have a radio similar to this, okay? Wifey's been listening to me snivel about my arthritic elbow here for I don't know how many months. And she finally decided, you know, she's very susceptible to TV advertising. If she sees it on TV, she wants to run out and buy it. I don't care what it is. It's really strange, you know. I keep telling her, why do you do that? You know, these guys are just on TV there to separate you from your money, and they do a very good job with you. I also had a friend that he was very susceptible to the those advertisements where, you know, they put these new kitchen gadgets on TV, you know, and they show you how to use it and all this stuff. You know, he always orders them. He gotta have one, gotta have one. And then he tells me, oh, this one sucked, you know, or this one was real good. You know, I really don't care about any of that. I go downtown, buy what I want. I see it in the flesh. But anyway, she brought home this blue emu the other day, and it's kind of nice looking. It has no odor, and it has, you know, no menthol to it. It's just a light blue turquoise cream. And it says you're supposed to, you know, apply it to the area liberally for 2 to 3 times a day for a couple of weeks. And then after that, as needed. Well, you know, to make her happy, I went ahead and smeared some of this on my elbow. I scooped it out, rubbed it in real good after my shower. Guess what? This stuff actually works. I can't believe it. About an hour later, my elbow was feeling so much better. Now, it did not take away all the pain, but it took away 70% of it at least. And that was, you know, just with one application a day. You know, I've used Bengay and all that stuff all these years, and all Bengay ever did was make my arm cold, you know, make the skin cold. It never really did much to help me. And when I was younger, we had a product called Wintergreen, I believe it was. Came in a little bottle with a sponge applicator top. That stuff worked pretty good, but I haven't seen any of it for years, so I don't even know if it's even sold anymore. But I'll tell you what, it works. Give it a shot, you know. I mean, rub it in there and don't be like me, you know, once a day. Go ahead and put it on there 2 or 3 times a day for a couple of weeks. Do what the instructions say. And I'll tell you what, it does do the job to, you know, about a 70% level. And another nice treat when I came through the door tonight after work. A big old pot of ham hocks and beans. Oh, God. Let me smell that. Man, alive. Ooh, that's going to cook all night long and in the morning. I don't know if I'll be able to resist it even in the morning when I get up. Well, it's the next morning. Check out these beans. Oh, man. Let me do a little stir here. Come on, get off of there. There we go. Look at those beans with those ham hocks in there. The bones have completely fallen out of the ham hock. The bones are down in there. Boy, I'll tell you what. I cannot tell you how good that smells. Well, here's our Evapo-Rust results. I just let it sit in there. I didn't have to do a thing. Just sat there and ate away, and I don't know, I left it in there for about 3 or 4 days. I didn't care. I had other things I needed to do, and I just didn't feel like getting out navel jelly and fighting that mess. So now there's one more thing to do to it. It did a pretty good job though, didn't it? Just sitting there. Well, the job is done. Oh man, I'll tell you what, I am pooped. It finished up last night and I'm still tired. Anyway, next week we'll move on to the big giant pine trees that have been felled. Here's that pine tree that was cut, you know, halfway down. And I was getting ready to chop it up when a guy arrived with a pickup truck, and he said, "Hey, what are you going to do with all those pine needles on that tree and those, you know, the small branches and everything?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna cut them in pieces, and then I'm gonna, you know, pile them up, and when they season, probably next year sometime, I'll burn them all up." And he said, "Well, I have goats and horses, and pine needles are a natural wormer." He said, my goats and horses eat this stuff." He said, "Do you mind if I take it?" I said, "Well, of course not." It saved me all the trouble of cutting all this thing up, you know. So he and his son showed up the other day, and they started cutting and whacking. And as you can see, they cleared out a whole lot of this stuff, you know. I gave it to him for nothing. He worked like a little beaver. And while he cut, his son was loading it in the pickup truck here next to the road. So he said, man, I appreciate this. I said, well, no problem. I said, by the way, I've got 2 more pine trees at the opposite end of the property that are on the ground. So I guess he's going to work on those too. So what I've decided to do, I don't know how much more of this stuff he's going to take, but in the meantime, I'm going to fire up my chainsaw this morning. I'm going to try to chop up as much of what's left as possible. I'll probably spend two mornings on it before I go to work. And then this weekend, maybe he'll return by this weekend, take what he wants, and I'll just pile up the rest. It's pine, you know, you can't really burn it in a wood stove or anything. It would gum everything up. So, but anyway, the old boy saved me a lot of time and energy, you know, a lot of gas. Let's finish this video up this way. The last time I went to my doc, he said, John, guess what? I've got some great news for you. I said, oh, I always like great news. What is it? He said, it's time for your colonoscopy. All right, Doc, you know, I mean, I do go to him for that kind of advice and that kind of counsel, and his job is to keep me well, and if he says it's time for my colonoscopy, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the colonoscopy. You know, this is really serious business, folks. It really is. Getting a colonoscopy, if you're over the age of 50, you know, do it. Don't even think about it. Just go down, make an appointment with a guy, fill out the paperwork, drink your stuff you're supposed to drink the day before, follow the instructions. It comes with the doctor will give you the instructions on how to drink it and how to mix it and all this other jazz, and then go down and get your colonoscopy. You know, colon cancer is almost completely avoidable. The last thing you want to do is come down with colon cancer, say, you know, if I'd have got a colonoscopy, which is a painless procedure, if I'd have got a colonoscopy, I may not be suffering right now. I may not be dying right now. For those of you who may not know, every year 50,000 Americans die from colon cancer. That's the size of a large football stadium. Picture the stadium with all the fans, and then suddenly it's empty. That's how many people die from that. Now, some of this stuff is genetic. I was talking to a lady the other day. She said that she knew a fella. He has colon cancer, and both of his sons have it. He was in his 50s, and they're in their 30s. So, you know, they would have not gotten colon cancer checkups because they were only in their 30s. However, there was probably a hint somewhere along the line in the family that there were, you know, genetic implications that there could be colon cancer in you. You should go get it checked if that's the case. It doesn't matter what age you are. The bottom line is, don't put it off at least after you get 50 years old. Every 5 years. Now they're saying every 10 years, unless you have cancer in your family, or you have had a case of cancer of some sort, then it's every 5 years. For me, it's every 5 years. So I don't mind going to do it. The bottom line is, all I got to do is drink this stuff, and then I show up for the appointment on the day of the appointment. They put an IV in my hand, and that's it. The next thing I know, I'm putting my clothes on and we're walking out of the place. And the doc will make it a follow-up appointment, or the nurse will call me, or the doctor himself will call me and tell me if everything's good or bad. Hopefully he'll call and say, hey John, everything's fine, it's great, okay? That's all I want to hear. Until the next time I hear my doctor say, I got great news for you, John. Get it done, guys. And I'm not talking guys. I'm talking to women too. Male and female. Over 50, schedule a colonoscopy. Get it done. You know, don't worry about embarrassment. Oh, it's such an embarrassing thing. I'll tell you what. It is to a certain point. But don't let it embarrass you to death. Until next time, this is John.